The Columbian Exchange, also called the Grand Exchange, was named by Alfred W. Crosby in 1972. Alfred was born January 15, 1931. He was a historian, professor, and author of such books as The Columbian Exchange, written in 1972, and Ecological Imperialism, written in 1986. In these works, he provides biological and geographical explanations for why Europeans were able to succeed with relative ease in what he refers to as the Neo-Europes of Australasia, North America, and Southern South America. Reference to his works is made by Indian scholar Ramachandra Guha in his publications. The Columbian Exchange. It's a relatively obscure concept developed by a relatively obscure historian. Most people have never even heard of it. Its definition is described as the transmission of non-native plants, animals, and diseases from Europe to the Americas and vice versa after 1492. It began when Christopher Columbus and other Europeans discovered the Americas, so they decided to trade their goods for the natural resources of the Native Americans. The Columbian Exchange refers to the exchange of plants, animals, and diseases caused by contact between the Old World, which consisted of Europe, Asia, and Africa, and the New World, known as the Americas. This biological exchange began with Columbus's arrival in 1492 and continued as Europeans continued to explore and come into contact with people, plants, and animals in other parts of the Americas that had not been exposed to European diseases, plants, and animals. The Columbian Exchange was a sea trade connecting the Old World and the New World. This new trade system, beginning in the 1500s and progressing from then on, was a consequence of discovering the New World. Exchanges between the New World and Old World was new foods, animals, and different materials. Traded among the Atlantic from Europe and Africa to the west was horses, goats, pigs, and some manufactured goods. From the Americas to the east was squash, maize, beans, and potatoes. But not only was food and animals traded across the Atlantic, people, diseases, weapons were also exchanged. Thus, there were large demographic shifts during this period of discovering the Americas and growing more resources. The Columbian Exchange became the major trade route of the 16th and later centuries, taking the place of the Indian Ocean trade routes, which also impacted the Europeans, Africans, Arab traders, and Asians. Remember that the Columbian Exchange and the Triangle trade are closely related. Slaves, sugar, and manufactured goods were traded on both routes. The difference is the Columbian Exchange route also contained cassava, tobacco, potatoes, horses, diseases, and artillery. This picture depicts the trade between the Eastern and Western Hemisphere. The effects of the Columbian Exchange dramatically altered the world balance as new ideas, diseases, livestock, and crops were being exchanged around the world. The arrival of Europeans led to a major demographic disruption in America, as the spread of smallpox and other diseases caused the many deaths to Native Americans, as they have never been exposed to vicious Old World pathogens, thus lacking any immunities. Many historians believe that new diseases introduced after Columbus's arrival killed off as much as 90% or more of the indigenous population in the Americas. The Columbian Exchange became even more imbalanced with Europe's successful appropriation of New World staple crops originally developed by Indians. The adoption of efficient, carbohydrate-rich American crops such as corn, potatoes, and cassava allowed Europeans and Africans to overcome chronic food shortages. Thus, even while Native American populations were decimated by Old World diseases, European and African populations swelled as American crops helped to overcome Old World famine. By the 1800s, after 3 centuries of the Columbian Exchange, Europe's population had surged to 150 million, while that of the Americas fell to 25 million, of which the vast majority were descendants of European colonists or African slaves, not American Indians. Cassava, a tropical root plant, thrived in the impoverished soils of equatorial Africa, helping to support a population boom in the Congo. Much of that new population would end up transplanted involuntarily to the New World through the Atlantic slave trade. The slave trade caused the decline of many African states, which resulted in the loss of countless African states. The Columbian Exchange created many new jobs in Europe, such as sailors, merchants, and manufacturing and exporting raw materials. With this increase in jobs and exporting and importing goods led to an economy boom that led Europe to invest into cities, arts, and the Industrial Revolution, changing Europe into an industrial region, which then became the richest area in the world, gaining the colonies and owning slaves. America was importing slaves that Europeans were supplying, while selling slave-made goods to Europe. Since America had free a workforce which was slaves, producing goods with 100% profit to America and exporting them and gaining enough money to buy more slaves or invest in various other things. This kick-started their economy through agriculture. They then had the wealth to invest into the Industrial Revolution and prevail.